friends, so let's review what Jack is going to start doing. He is going to start taking vines from his beanstalk and tying them together to make ropes for his customers, in addition to selling these beans. So basically what we're doing is we are helping Jack add together the lengths of these vines so that we know all together how many feet long these ropes are going to be. So this is really exactly what we were doing when we were measuring the beans, only instead of adding two bean lengths together, we're adding two vine lengths together. So let's start with our first problem that Jack has. So let's say he has a vine that is 60 feet long, and then he's tying to it a vine that is 20 feet long. So we have to figure out all together how long this rope is going to be. So we have to add 60 plus 20. We're going to go to our open number line for this. Now remember, when we're adding on an open number line, we do not have to start at 0. We can do kind of like what we do in our head when we count up or count on. We can get the biggest number on our number line and then count up with the smaller number, just like we do in our head. So I'm going to start at 60, and I'm going to start it kind of far down my number line, as far down as I can go, because since we're adding, that means our numbers are going to be getting bigger, and the more we go right down our number line, the more we go this way, the bigger our numbers are going to be. So since my number is going to be getting bigger, that means my jumps are going to be going this way, and I want to leave plenty of room for my jumps. So I always like to start as far down on this end as I can when I'm doing addition problems on an open number line. All right, so now I have to add 20. So when I look at the number 20, I see that 20 has two 10s. And this is really helpful because remember, we can do jumps of 1, 5, or 10. And we want to always try to get to our answer in the fastest way possible with as few jumps as possible. So if I can take jumps of 10, I'm going to take jumps of 10 because that's going to get me to my answer the fastest. And since 20 has two 10s, that means I can take two jumps of 10. So place value really comes in handy when you're adding these numbers on an open number line, because if you see that the number has at least one group of 10, that means you should be able to take at least one jump of 10, which is going to help you a lot. So since I have two 10s, I can take two jumps of 10. So I'm going to do my first jump of 10. Always make sure to label your jump so you can see what you're adding and so your teacher can see it too. And then my second jump of 10. Okay, so there's my 20. 10 plus 10 is 20. I just added my second vine. But now I have to make sure I also label my number line because you need to see where you land after your jumps and then finally where your answer is. So if I was at 60 and I added 10, where will I be after that first jump of 10 on my number line? What is 60 plus 10? 70, very good. All right, same thing. I'm adding another group of 10, so 70 plus 10 would be 80, very good. It's just like counting by 10, 60, 70, 80. So 60 plus 20 is 80, so this rope is going to be 80 feet long. So the strategy that we just used was skip jumping or skip counting by 10s. That's a strategy that you guys know really well. So let's do another practice with that strategy. This one's going to be a little bit more challenging though. Not much, but a little bit. All right, so now let's say that Jack has a vine that is 25 feet long and then another vine that's 20 feet long. So how long would the rope be all together once we tie those two vines together? Go to our open number line. Remember, we don't have to start at 0. We're just going to start at our biggest number and then count up. So our bigger number is 25. Make sure you start down on this end so you've got plenty of room when you do your jumps. Make sure to label. All right, so we're starting at 25, and now we have to add 20, just like we did last time. Only it's going to be a little trickier this time because now we have 5 ones. We don't have a nice round number like we did the last time. But no worries, we can still do this. So again, since we're adding 20, I'm going to do jumps of 10 because I've got two groups of 10. So let's do my first jump of 10 and my second jump of 10. So there's my 20. All right, but again, I don't just label my jumps, I also have to label where I landed on my number line, especially right here because this is where my answer is going to be. So, 25 plus 10. Where will I be after that first jump of 10? Again, this is a little tricky than the last one we just did. What would our answer be for our first jump? Here's how I kind of like to think about these types of problems when I've got more than 0 ones here. So, I know that 25 has 2 10s and 5 1s, right? So if I'm adding 10 to 25, that's just like adding another group of 10, right? Or like adding another 10 stick if we're using our base 10 pieces. So if I add another 10 to this, now I don't have 2 10s and 5 1s. Now I have 1, 2, 3 10s and 5 1s. And what is 3 10s and 5 1s? 35. So 25 plus 10 is 35. That's driving me nuts. All right, so now same thing. We're adding 10 to 35. So we have 3 10s and 5 1s, but we're adding 10. So now we don't have 3 10s, we have 4 10s because 3 10s plus another 10 is 4 10s. So what's 4 10s and 5 1s? 45. So we have 25, 35, 45. Before we move on, what do you notice that happened with these three numbers? What changed and what stayed the same? Hopefully you noticed that the tens place changed each time. Did the ones place change? No. Why didn't the ones place change? The ones place did not change because we didn't add any new ones. We only added groups of 10. So because we only added groups of 10, that means our ones aren't going to change, our tens are going to change. And since we added 10 each time, it went up by 10 each time. So we went from 2 10s to 3 10s to 4 10s. 25, 35, 45. That's really helpful to remember when you're adding by tens. All right, friends, so that means 25 plus 20 is 45. So this rope would be 45 feet long. All right, guys, so that was our first addition strategy that we're going to look at today, skip jumping by tens. And here's the exact problem we just did. So again, if you see in the number that you're adding that it's got at least one group of 10, then I would always start with jumps of 10 if you can, because that's going to really help you out and make it a little easier for you to get to your answer and help you get the fewest jumps possible. So this is one strategy you can use and that we're going to use to help Jack today, is skip jumping by tens. Here's another strategy that we can use to help him with another kind of problem. All right, so now let's say that Jack has a vine that is 58 feet long and then another vine that is 22 feet long. How long would that rope be altogether when we tie those ropes together, or when we tie those vines together? So this one's going to be a little trickier because we don't have nice pretty round numbers this time like we did before. We've got ones in both of our numbers. So here's a strategy we can use. So what I'm thinking here, I'm thinking back to the problem we did with 60 plus 20. It was a lot easier to add 10 when we started at 60, right? Because 60 is what we call a multiple of 10. 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, and so on. So it's really easy to add 10 to 60 because, again, it's a multiple of 10. So what I'm thinking is there a way that we can get from 58 to 60 pretty easily? Because if we can get to 60, it's going to be a lot easier to then add our groups of 10, don't you think? So again, we're going to start at the bigger number, 58. Make sure you start far down enough so you've got plenty of room to do your jumps. So we're going to start at 58 just like before. But again, is there a way we can get to 60 with jumps of 1, 5, or 10? we can do jumps of 1. You are exactly right. How many jumps of 1 is it going to take to get to 60? 2. Very good, because 58 plus 2 is 60. And you know what? Very nice that in our number that we're adding to 58, there are 2 1s. So what we can do is we can take those 2 1s from the number that we're adding anyway, and that's going to put us at 60. Because then it's going to set us up for an easier way the rest of our problem. And you'll see what I mean in just a second. So instead of starting with our jumps of 10, because it looks like we can take jumps of 10 in this number because we've got 2 10s, we're actually going to start with our 2 1s. And again, it'll make sense why in just a second. So if we start with our 1s here and do our 2 jumps of 1, 1 and 2. So there's our 2 1s, 1, 2. And remember, we said this would put us at 60 because 58 plus 2 is 60. So that would mean this would be 59. So 58 plus 1 is 59, plus another one is 60. All right, so we just added our 2 1s in 22, and now we're at 60. But we're not done yet. We still have to add our 2 10s. But now, isn't it going to be a lot easier to add our 2 10s to 60 than it would have been to add it to 58? Because we can probably do 60 plus 20 in our head, because all we're doing is counting by tens, right? Just like we did in that first problem, 60 plus 20, that was pretty easy. So now, since we've got our 2 10s left, we can do 2 jumps of 10 from 60. So here's 1 jump of 10, plus our second jump of 10. And again, we've labeled our jumps, but we have to label our number line. So 60 plus 10, do you remember from the first problem we did? 70, very good. Plus another 10, 80. So let's check to make sure we added what we needed to add. So we did 58 plus 22. We started at 58 because it was our bigger number. We added our 2 1s from 22, 1, 2, to get to 60. And then we added our 2 10s, 1, 2, 10, 20. So we have 10 plus 10 is 20, plus 1 is 21, plus 1 is 22. So there's the 22 that we just added, and we ended up at 80 on our number line. So that means 58 plus 22 is 80. So this rope would be 80 feet long. So this strategy that we just used is called get to a multiple of 10, and this is the exact problem we just did. So again, like I said before, it's really helpful to do jumps of 10 if you can, but sometimes you might not want to start with jumps of 10. Sometimes you might want to get to a multiple of 10 first, so that sets you up for an easier way the rest of your problem. And your multiples of 10 are, again, just like you're counting by tens. 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, 100. So if you're at a number like 58, it's helpful to think, okay, what would be the next multiple of 10? And if we're at 58, we're really, really close already to 60. We're only 2 numbers away. So if we can get to 60 first, then it's going to be easier to add the rest of our number, just like we did in our problem. We added 2 to get to 60, which was our 2 1s in 22, and then our 2 10s to get to 80. So we added 22 to 58 to get 80. So that's another strategy we can use on these types of problems, is get to a multiple of 10. All right, friends, but there's one other strategy that we can use too, and let's go ahead and look at that now. And it's kind of similar to what we just did, but a little different. All right, so now what we can do, let's say that Jack has a vine that is 38 feet long, and then he ties a vine that's 42 feet long to it. Let's see what 38 plus 42 will be on our open number line using a third strategy. All right, and this strategy is called a sharing strategy. So here's what we can do. We are going to start at 38 just like usual, except for, you know what? Notice that I'm actually starting at the smaller number this time, and I'll explain why in just a second. So we're starting at 38 here. And you know what, 38 is smaller than 42, but not by that much. So it shouldn't be too much more difficult. So we're going to start at 38, way down here. So we've got plenty of room to jump, especially because we're adding kind of a big number here. So you want to leave plenty of space. So this is called a sharing strategy because what we can do is, again, kind of think about what we just did in our last strategy where we tried to get to a multiple of 10. So notice in 38, we are really close to the number 40, aren't we? And 40 is a multiple of 10. 10, 20, 30, 40. So what do we need to add to get to 40 from 38? And can we borrow it from our number that we're adding to 38? Can this number share any of their number with 38 to help us get to 40? They sure can. This is really similar to our last problem. So 42 has two ones that they can share. And if we add those two ones to 38, look where we'll be. 38 plus 1 is 39, plus another one is 40. So when we added 2 to 38, we got to 40. So basically, we gave 2 from the 42 to the 38 to help us get to our multiple of 10. So again, this problem is really similar to what we just did on the last one. All right, so now that we're at 40, that's a multiple of 10, so it's going to be a lot easier now for us to add the rest of our number. So we added our 2 ones from 42. Now we just have to add our 4 tens. So see why we started at 38 instead of 40, because that's going to help us get to our multiple of 10 faster than it would be 42. All right, so now we can add our 4 tens. So since we have 4 tens, that means we can do 4 jumps of 10. So actually, I probably should have made these jumps a little smaller. My jumps of 10 might be kind of small here, but work with me. All right, so we've got 1, 2, 3, 4. We're just going to pretend those jumps are longer, but they're still jumps of 10. So plus 10, plus 10, plus 10, plus 10. So we've got 10, 20, 30, 40, 41, 42. So here's the 42 that we're adding to 38. But remember, we have to label our number line. So let's see where we'd be. Should be easy now that it's multiples of 10. So we're at 40, plus 10 would be 50, plus another 10 will be 60, plus another 10, 70, plus another 10, 80, 50, 60, 70, 80. So see why it's so helpful to get to a multiple of 10, because that makes the rest of it smooth sailing, because we know how to do jumps of 10. So that means 38 plus 42 is 80. So this rope would be 80 feet long. So let's review this strategy again. It's called our sharing strategy. And again, it's really similar to getting to a multiple of 10. So we had 38 plus 42, and we can use that 2 ones to help us get to a multiple of 10 in 38. So if one of your numbers can help you get to a multiple of 10 pretty quick, then we can share that number so that we can start doing our multiples of 10 and get to our number easier and faster. So we borrowed the 2 ones from 42 to help us get to 40 for 38. So we started at 38. There's our 2 ones we took from the 42. And that put us at 40. Then all we had to do is add our 4 tens, 50, 60, 70, 80. So we got our answer, 80. All right, my friends, so these are really helpful strategies to keep in mind when you are solving these problems for Jack. You are going to be helping Jack do some measuring for your math assignment this week, and also again next week we're going to be doing a little bit more practice with these types of problems before we get to our end of the unit test on all of this. I want to make sure that you're ready. So I encourage you to review this lesson as often as you need to so that you can review these strategies as you're working on your assignments and as you're preparing for your test in a couple weeks. So please let your teacher know if you need any help with this strategy. And again, this lesson is always going to be here for you to review if you need that help.